Hello, this is Miss Rodriguez, and today we are going to talk about a science vocabulary word, nocturnal. And then we're going to read a book, Boris and the Worrisome Wakies. And we're going to talk about the word nocturnal as it relates to this book. So let's talk about nocturnal. Nocturnal is a word that describes an animal. It describes an animal's behavior of when they are active and when they are sleeping. Nocturnal. 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 A nocturnal animal sleeps during the day and is awake during the night. See, we have a sleepy face when the sun is out, and we have an awake face when the moon and the stars are out. Think about you. Think about the people you know. Are people nocturnal? Do you sleep during the day, or are you awake during the day? Do you sleep at night, or are you awake at night? People are not nocturnal. People are awake during the day and asleep during the night. Can you think of an animal that is nocturnal? Can you think of an animal that sleeps during the day and is awake during the night? Pause the video now so that you can write down or draw a picture of an animal that you think is nocturnal. Pause the video. Okay, now that you're back and you've written down the name of your animal or drawn a picture of your animal that you think is nocturnal, let's discover a few more animals that may or may not be nocturnal. Our first animal pair, we're going to move this right up here so that you can still see the card, so you know, remember what nocturnal means. Nocturnal. Asleep during the day, awake during the night. So here's our first animal pair. We have a bee and a moth. One of these animals is nocturnal, and one of these animals is not nocturnal. Which do you think is nocturnal? Let's find out. Let's start with the bee. A bee is not nocturnal. See the sleepy face at nighttime? He's sleeping at night. A moth is nocturnal. See the awake face at night? What about a raccoon and a deer? A raccoon and a deer. What do you think? A raccoon is nocturnal. A raccoon is awake during the night. A deer is not nocturnal. A deer is asleep at night. How about a mockingbird? The state bird of Texas. I tried to draw a tiny Texas. A mockingbird and an owl. Is the mockingbird nocturnal or is the owl nocturnal? Let's find out. A mockingbird is not nocturnal. Mockingbird sleeps during the night. An owl is nocturnal. An owl is awake at night. How about a bat and a squirrel? What do you think? Is a bat nocturnal or is a squirrel nocturnal? A bat is nocturnal. A bat is awake during the night. A squirrel is not nocturnal. A squirrel is asleep at night. Okay, let's think about the character in our story and whether they are awake or asleep during the night. By the end of the story, you should be able to tell me if Boris and his friends and family are nocturnal or not nocturnal. Boris and the Worrisome Wakies by Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. Here's our title page, Boris and the Worrisome Wakers. Worrisome Wakies, sorry. Oh, my pages are hard to turn. Alrighty, Boris, the sun's coming up. You know what that means for badgers. Bedtime. But Boris the badger cub did not like to go to bed. Do I have to? Boris said, just like every morning. Yes, Mama said. I don't want to, Boris said, just like every morning. Too bad, Papa said. So Boris put on his PJs and grumped into bed. His parents gave him a good morning kiss, whispered, "Have a nice day," and tiptoed away. Before long, the Worrisome Wakies began. My ear itches. I need more water. My covers came off. Mama and Papa whispered, "Go to sleep, Boris." And later, "I'm hungry. I think my PJs are on backwards. I can't find my ice skates." Mama and Papa called, "Go to sleep, Boris." And even later, "If I went to the moon, would you miss me?" My cuddle bunny is hogging the bed. I'm scared of the light. Mama and Papa and Mama badgered. Go to sleep, Boris. Go to sleep, Boris. Go to sleep, Boris. But Boris had the worrisome wakies that day and every day. By nightfall, when it was time to get up for school, he was a very tired badger. Every evening, Mrs. Happy Snout greeted her students at the door. Good night, Mabel. Good night, Hubert. Buenas noches, Carlos. Good night, Boris. The other cubs had each enjoyed a good day's sleep. As Boris shuffled sleepily into the classroom, they chanted, "Everyone join the chorus! Here comes snoring Boris! What does he do? Bore us! Get it? Get it? Get it?" But Boris just plopped down at his desk and snored. Boris was a boring cub mate all through gym, art, lunch. Look at Boris. Library, and even music. And in Mrs. Happy Snout's classroom, Boris was usually a cubby in a cubby. After a while, his cub mates stopped noticing sleeping Boris. Night after night, it was like he wasn't even there. Cubs bumped into him, walked over him, used him as a wastebasket. Sometimes even Miss Happy Snout forgot him. Good night, Mabel. Good night, Hubert. Buenas noches, Carlos. Good night, who's it? One early morning, when it was time to go home from school, Boris's cub mates were especially loud. Was that a great badger ball game or what? And wow, Mrs. Happy Snout's exploding science experiment was awesome. Ooh, Mabel's birthday cakes were so delicious. The cubby in a cubby sat up and stretched. What did I miss? Boris asked. Lots, replied his cub mates. Like what? Like field day, we all got medals. And the class picture. The school play, you were a rock. And your chance to be line leader for the week. Nobody could follow you. Oh, said Boris. Oh. Tucked in bed that morning after Mama and Papa had wished him a nice day, Boris began the Worrisome Wakies as usual. My leg hurts. I need a turkey sandwich. And not quite as usual. I want to do a science experiment. Somebody bring me a cupcake. I really need a medal. May I be the line lead? Whoa. Wait a minute. Science experiment? Cupcake? Field day medal? Line leader? All the wonderful things he had missed and more. But why? It had to be the Wakies. The Worrisome Wakies. Aha! Yelped Boris. Suddenly, he knew what to do. Boris scratched his itchies, quenched his thirsties, and fed his hungries. He adjusted his PJs, put away his skates, and tucked in his cuddle bunny. Then he pulled down the window shade so he couldn't see the scary light. And with that, Boris banished all of the worrisome Wakies for good. He was ready for a peaceful, snoreful sleep that lasted all day long. The next evening, Boris bounced out of bed and got dressed for school. As he skipped out the door, his parents could only scratch their heads and wonder. His surprising silence had kept them awake all day. Mrs. Happy Snout was at the door as usual. "Good night, Mabel. Good night, Hubert. Buenas noches, Carlos. Good night. Who is this bright-eyed cub? Are you a new student?" Mrs. Happy Snout asked. "You might say that." Boris turned to his cub mates and winked. "Do you want a hint?" "Yes, please," everyone begged. So Boris faked a humongous yawn. "It's Boris!" his cub mates cried. They could hardly believe it. This cub looked more awake than anyone they'd ever met. Boris could hardly believe it either, but he didn't want to miss out on a minute. Now his cub mates sang a new tune. "Everyone join the chorus, give 3 cheers for Boris, hooray, hooray, hooray. Get it? Got it? Good." From that night on, Boris became the liveliest cub in school, and every morning he went home for a good, long sleep. There's Boris with his friends. The end. So is Boris and his family and his friends nocturnal? Think about the book. What time did he go to sleep? During the day or during the night? What time did he wake up and go to school? During the day or during the night? We can look back at our pages to help us remember parts of the story. Here's Boris going to school right here. You see the night sky? When you go to school, does your teacher say, "Good morning, students"? Or does your teacher say, "Good night, students"? Here's a clue for us. Miss Happy Snout says, "Good night" to her students. So what do you think? Boris and Miss Happy Snout and Boris's mama and papa and all the other classmates are badgers. And badgers are nocturnal. They sleep during the day and they are awake during the night. I hope you liked this lesson on animals that are nocturnal. If you have any questions, you can email me. Have a good day, and remember, wash your hands well, stay safe, and stay inside.